Coaches and affiliate owners, we are super excited to launch our Fit Affiliate Founders League. It is hosted over on the school platform, and you'll find a link in the show notes or a link in our bio over on Instagram. This is a group where there will be higher level conversation, higher level thinking, critical thinking, creative thinking, a little bit of fun, but the end game is everybody is helping everybody else be better. So I'll see you over there. And welcome back to our next episode of the Fit Affiliate Podcast, joined by my favorite two amigos, Tony, Andrew. Welcome. But I am soon to be three. I am super excited to welcome the one and only Chase Ingraham to the podcast today. If I were to list off his full resume, we'd be here for about 3 days. From
it's so important. I got a haircut before this podcast.
He's the host of the Get With The Programming and also CrossFit podcasts, South Central affiliate rep,
correct.
Seminar staff, former games athlete, games broadcaster.
Captain America.
Oh wow, you're gonna bring that one up.
Dad, yeah, 2000. We can't forget that. Dad, husband, does fills his days pretty well. So welcome to our humble
and business owner. Don't forget the shirt he's wearing.
Oh yeah,
I also forgot handsome and jacked too. I mean, he's got all these things.
Definitely not jacked.
I'm gonna come on this podcast like every week now.
No, not after it's done.
I was actually going to wear my OG shirt today. I thought, well, we've got Chase. It would be very appropriate. I have many in the wardrobe. So
awesome.
We're very excited to have you on the show.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm glad I finally got to make it work.
Yeah, that's why we're parading you with compliments. It's not because we actually mean them, and we're just trying to get you to come back the next time.
It's legit like a year.
We've
been trying to do this.
All right. Let's be very clear. It's been one hell of a year though, so it's all right. We're all in good time. I'm happy you're here now.
Oh, I'm happy to be here and finally glad I got to make it work.
I do need that shirt though. That's one shirt I do need.
This new Colt design's my favorite.
All right, Lisa, where are we going?
Wherever you want to go, boss.
Oh, I got.
I was trying to not go to Andrew on this one because I get to see him being like, "Let me in there."
Let's smooth it. I can smooth it. Yeah, I can smooth into it. Well, Michael Jordan you always want the ball. I always want the ball. So Chase and I are super close in many different ways. If things are going well, we'll talk about it. If
little spoon.
Yeah, off camera, maybe we'll chat a few times about things we like, things we don't like. Not like gossiping or anything. It's just simply action. And the other day, Chase, me and Tony were talking and like rumination on negative talk. I know that was a lot, but like we were talking about like, hey, why is so much talking about negative about CrossFit? And then we were like, because of what we're actually doing right now. I just like brought it up and said it. And that was kind of a big eye opener for me, but it is kind of a topic because you and I have been doing seminars forever. In this role, we see people who love what we're doing, happy affiliate owners, people who want CrossFit literally to burn, and you are stealing my money and giving it to the Fed, and I should have bought gold, and like everything in between. And I feel like you are just so in the middle of everything. And so what's actually going on? Like, I know that's big-winded, but like if you were to take everything you see, things you're a part of going on, where do you think the fabric of the community actually is today? Not what we see on YouTube, not whatever. Like, where are we at today?
Chase for president. That's what. Go ahead,
let me just the easiest question ever to answer. What I see happening over the last couple of years is I see the same thing with any large group of people on one side or the other, specifically with CrossFit or the CrossFit Games or CrossFit lack of media, that type of attention, is a massive group of people on both sides of the fence that have an extreme passion for CrossFit.
Yep.
And a lot of that centers around their extreme dedication to CrossFit from why they started CrossFit. We all started CrossFit for different reasons, but we stayed with CrossFit for the same thing, is that we wanted to be a part of CrossFit. And the last couple of years, I think it is okay to say that has muddied of what CrossFit is as a company, right? CrossFit, the methodology hasn't changed. It hasn't changed in over 20 years, and it never will change because it is what we do. It's a world-changing strength and conditioning fitness methodology, right? That hasn't changed. It's how it's been presented to the public or shepherded or stewarded by us at HQ at times. And though that may, on some people's eyes, on either side of the fence, as you said, either they're diehard in love or diehard and upset, right? The key phrase there, it's diehard, right? You cannot be like that angry if you're not impassioned with your love for CrossFit. At the same reason, you can't be that happy without being impassioned with your love of CrossFit. And what we're the thread we're trying to string is, how do we get everybody back together again? Because clearly everybody has the same passion for CrossFit. It's either side of the fence of maybe how it's being presented, how it's being stewarded, how it's being run, how it's being managed, how it's being celebrated, how it's being given to the people or lack thereof, which is a contentious part of things. And that's what I see when I see both sides of the fence. Is I see the same people or the same driver. It's just getting presented in different outlets.
Okay, one more, then I'm shutting up.
Okay.
I probably won't. But so I find parallels in meetings you and I are in all the time, that things that the affiliate owners struggle with are things that the company CrossFit HQ struggles with. And one I want to bring up right now, that if it's clickbait, it should send chills. I hate to do it, man, but it's a Hermosi quote. It's not a quote. It's just, I know, it's a story. When he started his affiliate, and I actually said this the other day in a call, and I saw some of the owners get to tears. When he started his place, I think he was an affiliate, whatever, gym.
Yeah, I was like, did he have an affiliate?
Don't give him that much credit.
Gym, sorry. But gyms are affiliates. We get it. He was sleeping in the corner. Everybody saw the pillow. Members would come in and they say, I like that fucking guy. I want to give him my money. He is sleeping in the gym, man, doing every class. I don't even think he showered, and he's caring so much. And then within 10 months, he had a general manager, head coach, and those same people, when he came in 10 months later, here comes Mr. Big Shot. Here comes this guy. Here he is. And it was hurt. And then in that moment, he realized people want to see you do well, but they don't want to see you do better than them. And they're willing to give money when you're dirty, when you're and I want to look at maybe some owners, maybe the community. CrossFit was like that. We were a company that slept in the gym corner and then maybe had some success. But people want to beat it down because they want to see us sleep in the gym corner again. And at the end of the day, I mean, this is one of the best sports. Let's separate the sport with the methodology, because you're in the sport. Dude, the sport's fucking amazing. Yeah. The sport is so cool. I hate when everyone's like, the sport turns people away. Dude, the sport is so cool. Sure, even if it's separated from that, that's, who doesn't want to watch that? Especially when it's produced well with media. But at the end of the day, like, these parallels that happen. Oh, I'm afraid to raise rates. People will get mad. Like, same thing happens with HQ. It's all these parallels that happen. It's like, are we just one incestual family? And do you think that there's like parallels of they want to see us go back? Like the community wants us to go back. And I don't mean back like Glassman only days or whatever, just back to being gritty. And is that even possible in 2024? Then I'm done.
I like what you said at the very end of like going back, and going back, not meaning we need to go backwards, right? But we need to look back at what got us here, why it did, what were those core things that had everybody gravitate towards CrossFit, and can we bring that back, right? But you cannot, here's the thing too, there's like, you can't bring that attitude, that gravitas, that, we're better than you attitude that we backed up, right? We perfected fitness.
Yeah.
CrossFit did it, right? And so the big battle when we first started CrossFit, when Greg started, is like he was revolutionizing fitness. And we won. And there's a reason that we know we won, because everybody underneath the sun started to copy us.
And we can prove it mathematically.
And then all of these other, fitness credentials.
We call them cheesesteak fitness brands.
We call them orange 45s. We're allowed to say orange 45.
They're just cheesesteak fitness brands. That's what they
are. Sort of replicates, right? Yeah. And then
that's more politically correct.
The naysayers, right? The NSC, what is it? I don't even care enough to remember their. Yeah, those people try to like tear us down, and then legislature try to get passed to block us. And like when everybody is trying to copy you and tear you down at the same time, you have created something revolutionary. And that's what we had. You can't go back to those days without the same type of people that were there during that time. Now, I'm not saying you need the same people. You need the same type of people, because those people in the old days, and just like call them out, like the Gregs, the Tonys, the Days, the Nicoles, the Chucks, the Todds,
the Russells,
right? Those people created, and a bunch of other more, that foundation of which we built upon. Mm-hmm. You can't go back to that attitude in those glory days that some people view it as without those type of people around.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you try to present yourself as that and you are not that, the coolest thing about the CrossFit community is they know when you're full of shit.
Yeah.
And you cannot sell them on anything. You have to earn it and you have to prove it before they'll sign off on that. And so if you want that attitude and you want that feeling, you're going to need the right people in the certain places in a forward-facing position and a position of, I would say, influence within the company, whether it's sport EDU or affiliate, that genuinely, authentically live and breathe that lifestyle, because they know where CrossFit came from, why it started, and what it can do. You cannot do that with people who don't live and breathe that, because the community will see right through that.
Totally.
But the community, I mean, you and I are in it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we make the biggest decisions, but we are complainers, especially me and you. Like if they think that something that's unjust based on what we feel, that we don't say anything. I mean, they've never been in a room where Chase stays quiet and then all of a sudden it comes off me. Says, I want to say something, or, I'm saying something every 45 seconds. And at the end of the day, I don't give a shit, because I don't get embarrassed very easily. But yeah, dude, like, I don't think there's enough talk about even what we just did in the last 15 minutes.
Yeah,
totally. I think there's a big piece of that in the beginning, kind of you were talking about with the methodology, and like, yeah, I mean, we won, right? We absolutely perfected fitness, and you can't go anywhere you can name any big box gym and there's somebody in the corner doing clearly, observably, identifiably CrossFit, right? Like, and high five to them, and probably will high five them, like, nice job, right?
Yeah.
As I move my way through there. And so there's the methodology, but I think what you're discussing also is probably, and maybe it's important, is the ideology that's behind CrossFit, because there's those two things. And I think that they do get muddied quite a bit in terms of, like, we don't really need to talk much about the methodology, because like that shit just works, right? Like it's kind of like it is the unwritten, what is the written rule really, I suppose, in this thing, but it's where we keep getting into these debates and these conversations is in these ideological observations of what we want CrossFit to be, or what we think it is, or what it could be, and all these things culturally, like you're saying. Because I think what we run into a lot is, to your point, Jason, I think you nailed that, and nobody's really ever brought that up before, is they're like, hey, listen, you kind of can't have your cake and eat it too. Like, in a lot of ways, we want to be this new version of this thing, and this, this new politically correct version of this thing, but like, our roots are built in battle.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we are, we're not, the grassroots industrialist sort of thing. Like, CrossFit was built out of a street fight, literally. And like, that might sound, whatever, grand, but like, if you were back then, people forgot how weird people working out was. Like,
Yeah.
Like I got kicked out of gyms and I wasn't even a good CrossFitter for quote unquote working out. Like, you know, in fast forward today, you know, we've talked about this on here. You couldn't find a kettlebell. You had to like beg, borrow, and steal to get a Dragon Door kettlebell, and then it got lost for 19 years, and like, let alone a medicine ball. Those were impossible to find. But I guess my point, back to the ideology part of it, is culturally, where, you know, we run into this issue is that we have a lot of, like, CrossFit was built out of that street fight, and so really the culture was built in confrontation. I think all of it. And to you guys, you know, talking about being on the inside and what you bring to the table, like, yeah, Andrew, you never shut up. You're always challenging it, and Chase will pop up and say something. But that's what it was, right? Like, because it was all built on the scientific method, which that really meant truly, like, science is supposed to be questioned, despite the fact that post row everybody's like, don't question the science. I'm like, that's what science is supposed to be. Like, we were all built on being like, bullshit, prove it, right? And CrossFit, basically, we said, okay, here, right, hold my beer, right? And we literally proved it, and everything was a fight. And we had a culture where that was not only appreciated, it was worshipped, and it was welcome, because, and I've said this on this podcast, but people avoid conflict like the plague. But I'll tell you, in the theoretical hierarchy of relationship development, all relationships are built on conflict, particularly conflict resolution, because without conflict, you can't have resolution. And so now we have this vanilla version of the future, absent of this conflict. And everybody's just like, maybe if we just don't pick any fights, and we don't challenge anything, and we don't ask questions, and we don't say, hey, prove it, you know, we could just move forward in the sunset and nobody will bother.
We won, Tony. See, this is where I differ from maybe Chase and Tony a little bit, but like, having differences is how we grow too. And that's what people forgot. We did win. We had the best methodology. Sometimes when you're a fighter, you go looking for fights that aren't even there. We won. I mean, and then people are like, no, we didn't. We fucking won. We don't know how to win, because all we know is the grit and the grassroots, and it's got to be Big Soda. And I'm telling you, they're killing people. And it's like, yeah, maybe, but also we won. Well, we didn't win because I saw sugar at a table at a gas station. Then you're not going to have a country. You're not going to have society. So we won because the methodology worked. And now we were trying to look for fights too, but innovation, that goes back to the skateboarding. You know, skateboarding started, people throwing skateboard through windows, hitting people in the eye. That's the culture we were. What is it now? There's billionaires in skating industry. It's still cool. How do we progress into the Nigel Houston world versus Tony Hawk and the Bulls? You know, because we did win.
I mean, I think you're right. We did win, but we won in the methodology. We did not win in the ideology. Like, CrossFit, absolutely.
We won a major battle.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
But like, now we're in this messy middle of like, okay, we don't have a unified enemy anymore. We don't have this thing. I mean, sure, we can go back after and we can kick Big Sugar when it's down, or we could do these things and we can go after it. Maybe that is the answer. I don't know. But like, in the old days, it was easy to rally around it because Greg, piloted. He was a masterclass in a just cause. He picked fights. We were just like, okay, fuck it. I guess that's who we're fighting today, right? And we were just in, because the family was in, I was in. Let's just do it. And like, we didn't have time, but now we don't have that. And so you look culturally around the world at different other cultures. What happens when you don't have an outward enemy? Infighting always comes next, right? And so cultures fall from within. They don't fall from the outside. And so when you don't have somebody to go after, I'm not saying we got to kick somebody when they're down or keep fighting because like we're fighters. It's that the battle's not over, because everything is the infinite game, right? We have to be able to continue to play the game. And if we don't keep advancing the cause, it self implodes, right? We just turn inside, and that's what's happening. We're just like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Why? I don't know. Because fuck you. That's why.
Is the methodology, sorry, real quick question for all three. Is the methodology better than the nutrition base? Yes or no?
I mean, elaborate on that. I'm not sure.
I do. That was pretty self-explanatory. That was the easiest way I've ever said it.
But doesn't the methodology incorporate
is the nutrition base about eat meats and veggies, nuts, seeds, some fruit, little starch, no sugar? Does that hold more of a candle to smash the world than constantly varied functional movement at high intensity? And the answer in Andrew Charles is
yes.
The answer in my little box is absolutely fucking not.
No,
Constantly varied functional movement at high intensity is now, I'm not saying the pyramid needs to be changed. Obviously, we know nutrition still should be the base for any healthy human. But at the end of the day, if I'm going to sit here, I have to be able to take down E.C. Sinkowski and Lane Norton with my science. And I just don't think that that's available. I don't think that, but constantly varied functional movement at high intensity, layered on with an amazing diet. Now, what's amazing? Well, is calories in, calories out okay? Can we finally accept that? That was the big thing. Remember when macros came out, Chase? You were still doing seminars. Everybody, macros. And we were like, hold on, no.
Zone.
And then we're like, wait a minute, zone's kind of macros. We're like, fuck, what the fuck's going on? People care about food now. Well, that's good. We won that battle again because we started to get people thinking about food more. And all these little things grew. And, the tattooed girl who climbs now has $1 million and 1 million followers. Like, great. Was that Chrissy? I think she did the macros book. But, like, that's the hard part, man, is like the methodology is just so good. I don't know. That's the battle.
I will say the opposite.
I believe it.
Metabolically, that's unsustainable.
What?
Like you can't constantly vary.
You can't out-train a bad diet. No,
well, exactly, right? You cannot do that. It's like, yeah, like visually, maybe, performance, maybe, but internally, like there is no long-term sustainability with that. The other way around of making sure you've got your nutrition dialed in from a simplistic point of view of meats, vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, no sugar, period, end of story, and light activity, you will do that and sustain a healthy lifestyle for the rest of your life. If you train hardcore CrossFit or constantly varied functional movements at high intensity and you eat like shit, it is unsustainable.
Oh, we're in agreement on that. I just think
then it's nutrition first, and all that other shit is secondary.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: CrossFit methodology is both. It's an all-encompassing thing.
Yeah,
that's right. That's what it is. It's like CrossFit isn't just the workout in the gym. CrossFit, and this is why everybody signed up on board in the early days, because CrossFit wasn't just the workout. CrossFit was also the nutrition. It was also, and you put those together and you have created a lifestyle, not a thing that you do. After about a year of CrossFit, I was no longer going to work out and I was no longer eating healthy. I just was.
Yeah.
That's who I was, and that's who I still am today. I don't work out as if it's a chore. Now, sometimes it's a chore. Sure. But so is raising my freaking kids.
Oh, God.
I'm a dad. I'm a dad for the rest of my life. I'm a husband for the rest of my life. It's who I am. It's who I will always be. And at the same time, I am also a CrossFitter because that is the life I live, not the lifestyle that I have. That is the life I live. And if you want to look at all of that, yeah, sure. We won fitness, but we won fitness 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And have done what since?
Right.
Dick.
Yeah.
And if you win a battle, because we didn't win a war, and you do nothing on the success of that, it will grow back.
Yeah. Like a bush.
Like cancer.
Yeah.
Right?
Totally.
If you don't remove it completely, it is. The problem with everything that we're dealing with is cancerous.
Yeah.
Because it's not just fitness that we're trying to win or that we've solved the world's most vexing problem, because we haven't. We beat it down and we showed everybody that it works. And then we stopped fighting and promoting that. And then, these fake versions of CrossFit comes up. And then these nutritionists with their macros, but sugar's okay. Like the fact that we posted the 100 words of fitness, I think it was a year ago, back on our Instagram page. And number of people who started tearing about sugar is actually good was batshit insane to me, that we did nothing in the comments to refute that.
Yeah. That I agree. So
it's not fitness first. It's nutrition and fitness. It's one and the same, but there's a reason why nutrition's on the bottom of the pyramid, because it is unsustainable to do all of that hard work and not back it up with the foundation of nutrition.
Yeah, I mean, I think that to understand the methodology itself is to understand and respect that there's no one sentence in fitness in 100 words that's weighted more than the others. Regular learning and playing new sports is as equal as meats, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. Like there is no, you can go further, right? Like my regular and play new sports might be 100-mile endurance race now instead of play kickball potentially. And my nutrition might have moved into a higher level of advancement, but we know the methodology in its essentialist approach, its very minimal approach will fucking literally change any human's life that touches it if they follow that very, very basic, and to Chase's point, and then to watch everybody jump in and be like, sugar. I'm like, listen, you can't even remotely deny that the avoidance of sugar is going to obviously make you better, right? Like you could negate whether or not the sugar is as bad as we want it to be, sure. But like, I think we all agree it's like alcohol, right? Like I think everybody should agree if we just don't drink alcohol, you're better than if you do have alcohol. Will you die from drinking it? No. But I think we all know, hopefully we all know that no drinks is better than a drinks. It's wild. When you watch that, you're just like, people will just fight over anything.
Yeah.
Literally.
Well, little sentences in that, like keep intake to support exercise, but not body fat. That's where the macro people originally, I can't believe we're on the nutrition, but it is like, there is so much in there about the weight and like, yeah, it's not that I misspoke. I still stand grounded, but
you know,
I never
macros, why it got so popular, and
because of CrossFit.
No. Why it got so popular within CrossFit?
Okay, yeah,
it allowed people to cheat.
Yep. I'm gonna say it brought back the cheat.
Because people took the zone and they're like, well, shit, if I just like don't eat these certain things and save all of them for this certain thing, I get all my blocks in.
Yeah,
right. It's like no, that's not the point. Like. You're just loopholing this. It's like, well, you know, I get it. I was eating ice cream. It's like carb backloading back in the day. And it was like promoted by Neil Maddox. Like, this is what I do. It's like Neil could smoke crack and drink and eat ice cream all day, and he will still look and perform like Neil Maddox.
Right.
People do people shit.
But, and I'm not on Neil. I'm just saying people saw that. It wasn't Neil's fault. But people saw me like, oh, this is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to lift hard all day, and I'm going to eat anything I want after 11 p.m. at night. And like, have you like any type of nutritional layman will be like, you mean at 11 at night, you're going to dump just sugar and carbs into your body before you go to bed? And you think that is just going to be like metabolically legit? Because the C by that carb number matches with the other C. It's like, no, there's a big C and there's a little C for a reason.
I think what's funny about that is Fikowski. I remember Fikowski being the one where I think Greg was still around, where Fikowski showed his diet, how much rice and stuff he was consuming. Now this is a professional athlete. So the problem, Chase, that we ran into originally 2015-ish when all this came out was everyone thought they should eat like a games athlete because they thought, and this is where EC was so smart, they thought that they were training like a games athlete. I remember when EC would talk, she would simply tell people like, you're actually not. And she would leave it so stoic. You're not. They'd be like, yeah, but I do. It's like, you don't have the genetic potential to produce that power output, or you're not strong enough. You are not training like a games athlete, and you never will be in this life. Because, so you shouldn't eat like it. And that was that's where people started to go crazy with like, wow, I'm going to carb backload, or Fikowski eats 800 grams of carbs a day. Maybe I should. Like, you absolutely should not.
Right.
You will end up diabetic that way. Absolutely. But you'll become overweight too in the process. Like you'll figure it out. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Lisa.
A good example for myself is when I swam collegiately, and I would consume somewhere between 8,000 to 10,000 calories a day.
Jeez.
And I was 6'2", 170 pounds with 4% body fat and a 2-flight up the stairs resting heart rate of 32.
Told you he was jacked once.
Yeah. Keep in mind, this was 20 years ago. Right? Now, when I stopped swimming, 2 months later, I was 200 pounds. Ate the same as I ate while I was swimming. After I retired, I was 200 pounds in 2 months.
Nice.
Right. And that's what I mean is when I go back to sustainability, right? People are looking too much at elite athletes and thinking that's where the basis of all of this comes from. When Greg created CrossFit, it was not to create the most elite strength and conditioning program for the best athletes. It was the perfect strength and conditioning program for everyone.
Right.
We evolved, like the sport wasn't even a thing for when Greg really started, let's say 20 years.
Yeah.
And then in 2007, we're like, hey, let's just race these guys. All right. Everything's for time, reps, or weight. Like, let's
Well, you say the word forging elite fitness, it's going to happen.
It is, right? But it's elite because it is the best.
Right.
It's not elite because it is only for the best.
Mm-hmm.
We have not only perfected fitness, but we have shown you what the peak of physical capability can be.
Yeah.
Right? But we're still not talking like athletics.
Right.
It's a different world. And that's where people got so confused back in the day. It's like, oh, Adrian Peterson would walk into the CrossFit Games and win. It's like, absolutely not. He'd get cut on the first day.
Yeah.
There's that as a athletic sport. And then there's the sport of fitness. Right. And it got muddied because people started to look at the methodology in terms of what it represented at maybe the games level, or they looked at nutrition, how it represented the games level. And at no point in time when this was first created had it to do anything with that. It was literally just to change the world of fitness and to like change the course of health all in one.
Yeah. So many people get caught up in understanding that methodology. They think that it's about what it is that they're supposed to do. And that's free to interpretation for them and iteration, right? Like everybody want to take this idea of fitness in 100 words and they manipulate it for comfort or cheat days or this or that. But the part of the reason that we won that battle and we crushed everybody else is the one part of the methodology that I guess goes back to the Neil thing. Like if you want a donut and deadlift, awesome. You're going to have to do the one thing that you're not going to want to do, which is the part of the methodology where we won, which is quantifying fitness. So if you're going to do that, let's fucking roll. Like eat those carbs, do your intra-workout gummies, do those things. I'm going to evaluate. I'm going to make sure you're still progressing. And when you're not, and this also would mean your body fat and everything else, when every marker is not going in the right direction, I'm going to say, pump the brakes, no more donuts, right? And you're going to be like, but. And that's the piece of it that I think is, I always say this a lot with the affiliates, like, it's not about what you do or how you do it. It's essentially the part of the methodology that makes an affiliate uniquely and identifiably better than every cheese dip competitor out there is in its ability to quantify and objectify and improve fitness based on our definition, because none of those other pseudo nightclubs that turn up the music and strap people to heart rates, they're giving them great workouts. Those things are hard. I've been in them, in those orange 45s. They're not easy things to do.
I've
been to a class
in a Pilates class.
Right? But if somebody in those gyms said, hey, how do we rank, on forced distance time? Right? How do we rank? Right? Like things aren't going in the right direction. And so now we go back to an affiliate. And like that's why I always say the games would be an interesting thing if it wasn't quote unquote the CrossFit Games. It was some other version of it. And then people showed up to it like the Olympics did. You would notice immediately that the top 99% of people who crush this thing all work out in a CrossFit affiliate and do this thing called CrossFit, versus the other people who show up because it's not the CrossFit Games would be like bottom of the barrel type of thing. And I think that it's just the quantifiable part of it. Cause like, if you want to follow Neil's thing, let's roll. I'm going to observe it. And when it's not going well as your coach, I'm gonna be like, hey, how's this working for you? I love these donuts. Right. But how do you like your performance? Well, I like the donuts more than the lack of performance. So I'm going to keep eating them. Right. Cause that's what it was. Mm-hmm. And that's what it came down to. And I think that goes back to that ideology conversation. We can infight on the methodology all we want.
Yeah.
Quantification was the absolution, right? Like as long as what you do is improving fitness, rock on. If it's not, we eliminate it, right? Like EC nails that one all the time. The rest of it is, but it's the ideology where that's where things are open. Like, what does it mean to be a CrossFitter? What does CrossFit mean to you? How do you identify this thing? What does it mean to be a part of it? Like, what part of your life did it change? How is it going to affect your future? What are you doing with the fitness? What is your new sport? Like, those are the pieces that affiliate owners, they're the pilots of. Right?
Yeah.
It's their job to be like, cool, methodology is done. How do we apply it? That's what's happening in the thousands of affiliates every single day.
I think we need to go back to holding hard lines, setting standards, and stop allowing
What's your brain? Okay.
Right? Stop allowing for is like, oh, well, this is how we do it, but you know, you can do that. Or yeah, you can like, listen, I don't here. Perfect. Right. But it's like, well, let's go, like intensity has come up in the interweb sphere. I was like, CrossFit is all high intensity. I'm like, where have you been? Like, where have you been? We say high intensity in our cute 6-word what is CrossFit phrase. And high intensity, as we all should know, means relative intensity. I'm not going to approach the marathon with a mile level intensity. They are both going to be at high intensity to my own physiological and psychological tolerances. And we promote that because it is the thing that works the best. But people see intensity and they just think, oh, we're going as hard as we can. And so we make exceptions to people's feelings about what is intensity. Oh, listen, like if you're not feeling it, then go to your relative intensity. But don't make it as like, oh, you don't have to do that anymore. Right? It's like, oh, well, the food stuff is hard and it makes me feel less than when you guys talk about this as like matter of factly, as like we're making too much exceptions to this. We are watering down what CrossFit really is. And Andrew, you said it earlier, Forging Elite Fitness is the greatest thing that we could have ever had in this. Mm-hmm. Right? And then we changed that a couple of years ago. And it could have watered down who we are more. Just changing 3 words at the bottom of an email. It drives me crazy.
Yeah. Is it because people are broke? Is it because affiliate owners are broke?
No. Like we were broke 15 years ago.
They're broke because it's missing more than it's being.
It could be, Tony.
Because they're broke.
It could absolutely be.
Because we're allowing too much. We're allowing people to get away with too much and there's no accountability.
And I don't think that necessarily as well that it's because they're broke. I think it's that scarcity mindset that they've got, that it's like, well, I need to take away the scary things, like you said, Chase, like this, we're just watering it down. It's like, it makes it easier for me to do my job if the big scary thing's not sitting over my shoulder. So, and I need to get all the people. Like I need, I'm in a town of 200,000 people. There's not enough for me and 3 other affiliates. Like, and they panic and they go, well, this is the thing that's scaring it away. Well, maybe the thing that's scaring them away is you're a douchebag when they first walk in and you're not coaching them, you're not interested, and you just want to beat them to a pulp. Like, but no one wants to look in the mirror either. And then they've got, coupled with that scarcity, they're like, well, this thing is the problem. That's what's scaring people away. It's the name on my door. It's the whatever.
Yeah.
And they're looking for the easier option. Same as we talked with the nutrition, like, oh, well, if I make paleo brownies, that's still like healthy. Right. Like, you know, it's like, well, let's just change it. And it's to make it more palatable.
Yeah. Concession.
It is. They did change it, but also I don't think people like, man, I feel like I get labeled as such a capitalist when people realize like I am as OG CrossFit as you can come. I saw a chick doing butterfly pull-ups. I said,
CrossFit by nature capitalist.
I don't think so, dude. I think it's more modern.
I think put that out there. I really don't have any idea what capitalism is in a sense, but I think it's more as like you
live in Texas, bro. Well, but listen, kind of. I don't know. I want to see how many level 1 references you and I are going to accidentally spill, because it's at a minimum more than 3 each episode I do. But intensity is the mechanism that drives results. So I think affiliate owners have forgotten that. And when we talk, I kind of go too hard talking about that when I used to do seminars. And but man, I felt it, because any specific adaptation that you're looking to make, CrossFit the methodology, rolling the diet in just for sake of an argument, save an argument. It's everything. Yes, all of it in. If I see someone in the grocery store and they're like, hey, is this going to help me be more jacked? Absolutely. Hey, is this going to help me be a better husband? Absolutely. Hey, is this going to help me get through this divorce? 100%. Any mechanism, because I'm going to show you constantly varied functional movement at high intensity, and I'm going to do it to your relative intensity. Anything you want to get better at in that day. Hey, is this going to help me pray better? Yeah. Fuck yeah, it is. I don't know how. It's just, it's in the black box theory, right? It goes in, it comes out. We have no clue, but it does help. So you cannot, if you're an affiliate owner, don't be afraid to actually say that. No matter what you want done, intensity is the mechanism that drives results. That's in the methodology. Yeah. And if people forgot about that, like, remember that. Remember.
Well, here's the thing about intensity, and I'm going to go a little on the limb here, but intensity isn't just for the workout. Right? Intensity has everything to do with discipline. Are you disciplined enough to put yourself in that position you don't want to put yourself? Because that's where intensity is. That's where intensity lives. Intensity, by that measure that I'm talking about, also lives in your ability to have sound nutritional choices, because it requires discipline. You need intensity when you decide, am I going to wake up at 4:30 in the morning to get to the gym at 5 because it's the only time I work out? And the challenge I have to wake up is an intense battle I deal with internally every day. And I'm speaking for myself. I have an intense battle with myself to, all right, I could really easily just order that on favor than to just cook my own meal that I already bought all the food for, that I let go to waste every 2 weeks, and I don't do anything with it because I choose convenience over the intensity of doing the right thing. The intensity of, man, that margarita looks really good right now. I've had a long day, but the intensity challenge I have is to not have that. Or maybe I do, right? I don't bat 1,000. I never have.
80-20.
80-20, right? But most of us is like 20-80.
Yeah.
The intensity, and this is where what you were talking about, Andrew, is like, oh, how does CrossFit affect the things outside my life? And Greg said this a long time ago. He's like, I'd have clients walk into a gym and write down on a piece of paper the 3 things they just want to be better at in life. Put it in a piece of paper, put it in a drawer. 6 months later, open it up, look at your list, and tell me, have you gotten closer to achieving these 3 things? Most all the time, unequivocally, it's yes. And you're going to get that with burpees and thrusters? No, you're going to get that by learning that you have the discipline and the power to control the things that are within your control, which is sleep, diet, nutrition, friendships, work relationships, wives, kids, right? Pick a category that is within your control. And CrossFit, at its core, teaches you that you actually have the discipline to do the hard things, which is intense in those challenges you have on an everyday basis. So the intensity for me, which is why this is so potent, is because everything in our life is intense. We have all of these hard choices, left or right. And most people choose the one that's right. They choose the one that's less intense. God, I know I need to buckle down on these last 20 cals on the road to finish this workout under the time that I really wanted. And I have to make a choice. Or do I just coast it in and ride it in?
Yeah. And move the
goalpost in your life where you have to go left or right, easy or hard. And if you've never done the hard thing, the CrossFit gym or the CrossFit in your garage or whatever teaches you that this thing that scares the shit out of you, you can do. And the more you do this, the more these things are going to get better, because you have taught yourself that you can handle the intense decisions. And on the back end of that, great things are possible.
I got goosebumps. I got goosebumps. Can't see them, but I got them. And so much of that, I think, is to the point of that intensity is a choice. It is the part of people like us do things like this inside the CrossFit space is around that. People like us choose intensity when we have the ability to choose the opposite, right? Like, and I think to your point, Chase, I love that so much, because I can mail it in, or I could damn near die, right? And every day is a choice. And listen, I mail it in as much as anybody does, right? There's days I'm just like, let me run this clock out right quick. Like, I ain't got nothing to prove these days. I got gray in my beard and nothing but time left. Like, I'm good. But there's other days when you get to the trailhead and you're like, I could walk this, I could run this, or I could sprint this. And like, you know, today's choice was like, I wonder how bad it will hurt if I sprint it. And the answer is terrible, right? But I also am like, but if I sprinted, I'm done faster. And so like, there's always a trade-off, but I guess to your point, and it does, in the part of, I've talked about this a lot in terms of like, my association with this space and this industry for 20 years now as a CrossFitter, like what keeps me here? I don't have the workouts maybe, but it's the people, right? And the reason it's the people is that I don't have another place in my life. I've got some cool people who aren't CrossFitters in my life that I love to death, but like there's an unspoken bond that we all have. And I think it's to that point is that I know these people, they'll choose hard when given the choice. And because of that, I don't have to question their character. I don't really have to question their ability, their capability, their integrity, their interest, their values, their ethics. Like people like us do things like this means that like, I don't need to really even know much about Chase to know like he's down, right? Like he's going to do the thing. And I think that that's the part of it that keeps us all here. Sometimes I know we all do this. All of us are like, what am I still doing here 20 years later, right? Like I haven't been anywhere for 20 years. And the thing is there's a lot of people making really cool choices. But to your point, Chase, we don't give it enough attention to the fact like they go to work and they chose intensity, right? They go home and they chose intensity. They go to the grocery store, they chose intensity. They're presented with a dinner choice and they chose intensity. And I don't mean like show up hard, but like just slam my plate down.
Yeah.
Because your point of intensity is simply you could do the easy thing or you could do the hard thing. And sometimes the hard thing is just not get the drink or choose that meal instead of the other meal. And like those things pay off. And that's why, to your point, you pull those things out of the drawer and you're like, I don't know how, but yeah, my whole life. And that's why people, come to this gym, you'll get a promotion at work. Come to this gym, you'll get a new wife. Like come to this gym, like, and these things happen. Yeah. And everybody's like, aren't you just working out? But it's that part that Chase just.
I will say though, that fired me up so much. And the fact that it fired me up that much, I've worked therapy a lot to get out of that because there is a specific group of people in this world. And if you're listening to this, you're probably not one of them. I'm telling you right now, because when I found CrossFit, I was the captain of the team. I was willing to die for my team. I remember going into a locker room post we lost in overtime. I fucking ran in this locker room. No plan. This is an NCAA sport. I'm going to fight every single guy in here. No plan. Zero plan. And my coach is pulling me out. So we got in. It's just like madness. And I'm like, so intensity is God. But if you've been doing this long enough and you share the similar mindset that you try to die, every day you're in there. Like I did try to die today in my garage. Like I'll admit it, but I let it slip. It happened. You can, if you've only been doing this for 20 years, sometimes you need to actually work on the skill of mailing it in your life even. Yeah. You need to skip a morning, Chase. Every once in a while, I'm challenging Chase to skip. Do you do jiu-jitsu with your son?
No, I've been looking at it.
You're going to start. You're going to start. I'm going to help. I'm the type of guy who does it, and I don't post about it. I think I did every once. Like I think I wanted to promote my new gym, but like you can mail it in, not do a workout, sleep in on that day, and try something new like jiu-jitsu, or just like that is okay. But for a majority of people, a person you see in Walmart, it's not okay. They don't have the discipline to do that yet, and that's where we live in this country. Like we need to get everyone else on that side. God, that fires me up. I feel like going to work out again.
This is where I like the definition of what high intensity is for our community is the very most important and forgotten word of this is relative. Your physical and psychological limits, and you telling that story shows me you went well beyond those. So you dosed your intensity inappropriately. There's nothing wrong with the intensity that we are promoting, which is relative to the workout, relative to how you feel for the day, relative to where your mindset is at, relative where you are emotionally, relative to, it's not just relative to the way you feel physically under the barbell that day. And so you proved an amazing point just there is that you went well beyond your physical and psychological tolerance.
Due to the scoreboard of the methodology.
Right? And that is the importance of having someone there to hold your hand and walk you through it
Absolutely.
A coach, an owner, a mentor, a training partner, right? That can keep you back in, because you can go, right? Relative intensity is a sweet spot in the middle. You can go below, you can go above, right? But that still brings us back to the point of this relative intensity is vital. And if we make concessions to let you go below, you start creating habits of, I can let that go, let that go, let that go. And at the same time, we can do the negative on the other way, where it's like harder, harder, harder. The harder I work, the better I get. It's input, output. It's like, no, it's not. Right? It's this ever evolving day-to-day thing, but we know where it should be. And if we forget along the way, that's why we have people like you and I, like, that are there for each other. So if you're running yourself in the ground, I'm like, Andrew, take a rest day. Right? You are going so far, like I'm watching you deteriorate in front of my eyes, right? Because we get so intense and so competitive, and like, I'm just as competitive as the next guy. I mean, like, me and Andrew like got in like a whole thing about like who's taller one day. I think he's still taller. He just didn't believe I was as tall as I was. Right? But that's just who we are.
Yeah.
It's the importance of having someone there, which is, you know, to circle it back to the affiliate, why it's vital to have good coaches, good owners, good managers, and good people that have come into your system to help you along the way.
And I think it's someone who, you know, to continue on the intensity theme, who will have the hard conversation with you about, just because you can doesn't mean that you should. And hey, like, you're in here, you're breathing fire every day, but I can see that your shirts are getting tighter, and you know, and I know that you're, you know, I see your socials, you're, you know, hitting it hard every weekend. Like, what's happening for you? And we'll choose intensity as in the hard conversation with you, which is what a coach will do, and say, hey, like, let's just bring the shit back and be, you know, help you not be your own worst enemy.
Yeah. Intensity it's such a fascinating word in terms of human behavior, right? Like it's you're right. It's no doubt your ability to damn near kill yourself in a workout, but for some people, like in Andrew, it's your ability to pace, right? It's your ability to take the day off, or to do things like that. It's your, you know, and it's so many other pieces of it. And to bring it back to affiliate owners, which are probably listening to this, like, it's also your ability to figure out what you need to stop doing in order to be successful, right? Like, you know, affiliate owners, we apply this level of intensity to be like, I'm just going to crush everything and try to do everything. We have this belief that like CrossFit is, and it's all of its variance, means that we should just do more and more and more. Like, how many times you see your clients do that, right? Like, next thing you know, they're finishing the workout and they're sitting down in the row. You're like, what are you doing? Oh, I'm going to do my intervals. What?
Yeah.
What do you mean? And then they're done with that. And they're like, why are you still here? I gotta do my snatches, right? Like, you guys have missed the point. Let's just measure it. And the same happens inside the affiliate with the affiliate owners. You're like, what are you guys doing? Figure out who you are, figure out where you want to get to. Let's evaluate and measure everything that you're doing and make sure that it's actually moving that needle forward with the right level of intensity, and figure out what you need to stop doing to be successful. Because that's the hardest part in business. It's just like taking somebody like Andrew and being like, hey, backing Andrew down is hard, right? Because like, he knows one thing: I will kill, right? And it's like, you're taking a thing and you're like, hey, let's stop doing that thing. It's not serving you. They're like, no, I got to do more work because I got to do something. And I'm like,
that's where a coach comes in, Tony. Honestly, like at the end of the day, or even, you know, like, if I had to catch myself one time, I'm a very budget oriented guy. Like, I'm one of the most frugal people. And so like, I caught myself, you know, this was months ago, where I was like slightly annoyed with my wife, Jen, not with her, but I was like, hey, how did we accidentally have to buy ketchup from Walmart versus Sam's Club? Because we didn't calculate out our giant 3 tubs of ketchup. We had to spend 50 cents more to go to Walmart, versus now I take that intensity too when I see someone driving a car that I'm like, you can't fucking afford that. What are you doing driving that? And so you have to like back it back in, where CrossFit.
Sure, that's just you being a dick. That's not intensity.
Well, no, that's just the truth. That's just the truth. Wish we could get Ramsey and not that I said I follow
projection,
because
you don't have it, so you're mad at them for having it. But
no, I'm actually very happy. But nonetheless, I'm like, well, wait, no, you made that crisis we had worse. But anyway, we'll talk about Drew with that. But it's just, you do have to look at, if you're a true CrossFitter, like Chase Man was saying earlier, that fired us up again. Like, the reason you love other CrossFitters is because they have the ability to take what they're doing, go outside of their little box, and actually recognize, like, I want to bring this person into my life. That's why the cult, that's what we do. Like, we go and then we literally are like, whose life can I change in this room the second you walk in? Like, that's what we do. And that's how CrossFit was so special. And I said that on our call today. Like, I think affiliates struggle with retention is more important right now for affiliates. Get new leads. Like, man, okay. But if you can get 100 people, man, figure out where you should be then in your space and XYZ, but like, love these people, and more than likely they're just going to stay with you. You know, if you really, really, really just get in there, and they're going to tell enough people that they'll have leads, they'll have kids that age up that can come in. You know, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, that the intensity and the ability to choose intensity, I think, comes down to it's representative in the entire community, because what we have, really what that shows up as, is agency. And like, inside the affiliate community is the largest concentration of any place I'm aware of in the world of a population who has agency over their life. They have the ability to utilize and do and lean into doing hard things to advance and change their condition and their circumstances to varying different degrees relatively. And I think that's what it comes down to. And that's the magnetic part of it. That's the thing that keeps us here. That's the thing that keeps people in your gym, is helping them and reminding them, to show them, like, hey, the point of intensity is a choice. And that choice is replicated in the rest of your life, and your ability to have agency over things that everybody outside of this space, they're a victim. They're a creature of their circumstance. Everything is against them. They can't get out of the system. CrossFitters seem to have accidentally and incidentally found their way into this ability to choose intensity, and accidentally realize, like, hey, I think I have the ability to change the entire trajectory of this thing. And that's why we always say it saved my life. It wasn't like most of us were on our deathbed. It's that, like, it gives people their life back, because now people have the ability to choose. They have agency over their life.
Mm-hmm. The thing I love about just what we have is that these choices that we're talking about, most people refuse to make them because they're so terrified to be wrong, or they're terrified to fail. So they just choose not to make a choice, and they believe that they can't fail because of it, when we know that the long-term ramifications of just sitting still and not making any decisions for yourself is just a death by 1,000 cuts for the rest of your life. The flip side to, this intensity discussion is the thing I love, the thing that I believe instills the most confidence in people in the gym, is that they learn that failing is not the end of the world. Right? And in the CrossFit gym, if you've taught them correctly, and you said, is like, there's a safety net here, and I want to use safety like safe space safety. I mean that in terms of, hey, did you go out too hot and crumbled? It's like, awesome, congratulations. Did you miss the 1 rep max you were hoping to get for the last 6 weeks? Hey, listen, the fact you put yourself in that position is more important than the results of that decision.
Totally.
The decision to take that scary step or to make that hard choice is the actual win. It's not the results of the choice. It's the fact that you put yourself in the position to make it. And the thing that CrossFit teaches people the most, and I think it is the most important thing, and I used to tell this to my clients all the time, when you walked into the door today, you won. Anything else that happens the rest of this hour does not matter. The fact that you've put yourself in a position to potentially fail is the biggest lesson you will learn in your life, because we need to understand is that we paralyze ourselves with the fear of failure. And we paralyze ourselves with the idea that failure is the end of the road. It's like, well, I'm not going to start that podcast because it'll probably suck and nobody's going to view it. And then that was a horrible idea. So I'm just not going to do it. Or I would have started this online program, or I started this nutrition program in my gym where I was going to start doing private lessons that nobody signed up for a year, and like nobody failed. It was like, I'm going to train to try to make quarterfinals or semifinals of the CrossFit Games. It's like, no, I probably won't. It's like, they're so afraid, and they have this idea that failure is the end of the road. Or failure means that you are one. And in the gym, we realize is like, we fail every day, if not weekly. But the fact that you put yourself in that position builds more confidence than being successful at the attempt, and more the fact that you're willing to try.
Yeah. That's why you're going to start jiu-jitsu with your son.
I know.
I will do.
My fear is not sucking at jiu-jitsu. My fear is that I hurt myself constantly.
I'm aware. I get it.
And I will be that guy.
Then don't go live. Just walk into the gym and be like, I am injury prone. I'm gonna start with lessons with you guys, and they should be cool about it. But
I'm gonna do private lessons with Coach.
No, don't do private lessons. Go into class. Just when the live time hits, just maybe sit out. There's nothing. It takes an ego check. And I had to sit out last week, and I was very mad about it. But dude, man, why is this content out there?
I don't know.
Are we the only people talking about this?
It's just not a piece of it that I think that people understand, because there's so many cultural other inclinations against it, right? You take something like a statement like perfect practice makes perfect, but we know from both a behavioral, a physical, and as well as like a neurobiological sense, that statement is absolutely wrong. Failure is the thing that elicits a state of plasticity in the brain, right? But like, we just run those things around. Inside CrossFit gym, so many cool things happen, through Chase's point, through failure, right? Like, they become these microcosm, these epicenters of failure in such a great and glorious way, because it is the first and maybe only place in most people's lives where they can go and they can fail safely, right? And because we know, the wellness continuum, and we know that on the left half is the organic skills, but the real true fitness happens in those neurological skills, right? And the reason that matters is because by exposing people to opportunities to fail in a controlled environment, learning a muscle up, gymnastic skills, things of that nature, what you're doing is allowing them to not only, one, embrace the failure and obviously move through that part of it, but it also puts them in a state of plasticity and learning. And whether it's out there or not, it doesn't necessarily need to be, because inside every gym, there's hundreds of people who have failed their way better, more so than they've ever perfected their way better. There's not a single walking, breathing, living CrossFitter who has gotten better by only practicing perfectly, right? We have the proof out there. Like, the more you try to fail and fail correctly and fail well, the better you're going to get at this thing. And there's just no place inside a fitness gym, aside from a CrossFit gym, who's exposing people to the neurological aspects of fitness. This is like, Miranda just went on that diatribe on her podcast, essentially about this too. The thing that kept her here was that when she found CrossFit, she knew that there was something missing in her current training, which was the whole neurological aspect of it. And that's the piece of it that is so sort of magical. Like, if we took cross sections of every human's brain when they started CrossFit and then did it again like 6 months later, their brains would be unrecognizably different, all because they get exposed to things that are crazy, like the muscle up and the snatch. But back to the earlier part of this, how many affiliates are like, we don't do those things here. They're not important to fitness, right? Like, well, you threw out the baby with the bathwater there. So congratulations.
I want to scare everybody off.
Yeah, exactly. And they're cool. And I think that, to your point, Andrew, I don't know if it's out there, but I think it is out there. There's hundreds and thousands of CrossFitters who are walking, talking examples, but I don't think they're paying attention to it.
I like what you said about failing forward. And I'll say one more quote. I feel like I've talked way too much on this show. But failing constantly sheds the fear of it.
Mm-hmm.
And the quote is, everything you want in your life is on the other side of the thing that scares you the most. And so if you can train yourself, and again, it's funny that this all comes down to just working out in a gym for an hour, 3 to 5 times a week, right? If you can put yourself in a position to fail, shed the fear of it, imagine the freedom you're going to have for the rest of your life with all things that you want or want to try. Because the thing that stops us the most is the fear of failure. And if we realize that inside failure, there actually is no, like the world's not going to end. Yeah. Be labeled as one. I will clap for the person who fails going for it than the person who just sat there and just rode the line. Mm-hmm. I'm glad they're both there. But I tell that to my son all the time. I was like, dude, I don't care if you score. I don't care if you miss. I don't care if you're the fastest. I don't care if you're the toughest. I don't care if you win or you lose. I just care that you tried as hard as you can and you weren't afraid to do it.
And I think in the gym as well, like, you're surrounded by people who make it okay to fail. So you just said, Chase, that you'll cheer for somebody who gave it their all and they, might have missed that lift. You're surrounded with people who aren't going to make fun of you because you tried something and failed. They're like, oh, I've never done this. I don't know. I've never been upside down before. cool, let's all try it. And like, people are going to high five you for trying, and you're that much closer than never having done it. And you're surrounded by this group of like-minded individuals where not only is it okay to fail, but trying is celebrated.
Mm-hmm.
And we probably talk more about our epic fails than, oh, remember when you got spat out the back of that snatch last
What I'm
week?
known for.
Like no one's telling you about, reliving that 1 rep max. Oh, remember the day you tried to get up the rope and and that's, I think, the power of what we bring to that intensity and that ability to really live life and try things, because you know that with the right people around you, you can give anything a crack.
Yeah, you're only a failure if you accept it. You can fail as many times as you want, but you can. You just don't accept it.
It's amazing how we bring up the word failure and how more quotes just come out. Oh, you all got failure quotes. We're just all the failure quotes.
Just dying. I was on a quote that I just organically said that in my brain, because it's funny because I see Chase being a dad, and me, I have a million kids. Probably have more at the end of the day, but I know Chase. I know Chase feels that way, where sometimes you find this organic moment where you're like, I'm about to teach my son about failure. I'm about to lay him with an epic quote that and then this is what's great about parenting. Your son looks at you and he's like, it looks like he's about to absorb the information, and he's like, I have to poop, or it's just something like my son did that the other day. I was like, yeah, it's gotta be hard being my son, and I'm telling him something deep, and he looks at me and he's just like, I want to ride a bike with no pedals. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? We were talking about bikes.
Yeah,
we were just going deep.
Go sit your little ass over there.
I've been at teaching math. I'm like, all right, man. He's like, Anne's got 3 of these, and Sarah's got 6, and he's like, Dad, what was that flavor of this that I had 2 weeks ago? I'm like, what the?
Yeah.
Focus.
Yeah. And that's where the CrossFit in us comes, because then you're going to be like, if we start talking about that stuff now, people are going to be like, Chase, you should really look at your son for attention deficit. And you're like, shut the F up.
Yeah,
he's 4, he's 6. He's being a
I
kid.
know where
You ever ran a class?
Yeah. It's like, this is why you suck at math, Dylan.
Yeah.
Thinking about bicycles. Well, I'm trying to teach you what Ann and Sally are doing right now with their candy.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. All awesome. Right. I think we'll shut it down there, because now we're going to move into parenting, which is also a hilarious one that we should definitely get into, because you two were funny on that one. But I do appreciate the whole conversation, Chase. I think you summed up so much of that perfectly. And we don't talk much about that differentiation between that methodology and ideology, but also with somebody who is really behind that OG movement. So it's cool to spend that time with you. And I know it's hard to get you here, but I'm grateful that you showed up.
Thanks for having me. Happy to come back anytime in a shorter window than a year.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's bring Chase back, but inside a year would be great. This is a good time to do that. So thanks for your time, gentlemen, and for those who are watching and listening, please throw us a like or a subscribe on your favorite platform, and link in the show notes for our amazing school group where you can have more conversations like this, because Andrew's in there leading the charge with some big conversations that are a bit more than just your average.
Just talking about Bitcoins.
Yeah. And we'll see you on the next one, guys. Thanks, legends.